Like most kids growing up in the 90s, I was pretty enamored with dinosaurs. I loved the Jurassic Park movies, and my best friend had Jurassic Park: The Lost World for the PlayStation, and we put countless hours into that game. The 90s cemented dinosaurs as these awesome, fascinating creatures, but they were never really scary to me. Jurassic Park felt like an adventure, not a horror movie. Dinosaurs were cool, but distant. So far in the past, they were almost unbelievable. And they weren't going to keep me up at night. That was until Dino Crisis happened. You see, this wasn't about zombies, viruses, or demonic forces. It was about dinosaurs. Prehistoric predators that once ruled the earth. That might sound a lot like a Jurassic Park knockoff, but Dino Crisis tapped into something primal. It redefined survival horror by making the threat terrifyingly real. On the surface, Dino Crisis could be seen almost as a dinosaur-skinned version of Resident Evil. After all, the games share the same creator, Shinji Mikami, and both of them are built on the same foundation of resource management, puzzle solving, and the fear of what's around the next corner. It was Mikami's brilliance in creating tension that elevated this game. Capcom had already set the bar high with Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2, but Dino Crisis took it in a fresh direction. What made Dino Crisis stand out was the tension it created through speed. The slow, shambling menace of zombies was swapped out for fast, relentless predators. Velociraptors, pteranodons, creatures that don't wait for you to make the first move. They hunt you. The dinosaurs in Dino Crisis felt faster, smarter, and far more dangerous than anything else in survival horror at the time. At its core, survival horror is about managing fear and sharp decision making. Games like Dino Crisis force you to constantly weigh risk versus reward. Do you run and conserve ammo, or stand your ground and risk using up vital resources? This is the tension that keeps you on edge throughout, making every encounter pulse-pounding. In Dino Crisis, the tense encounters didn't just come from grotesque, decaying flesh like in other games, but from pure primal fear, the knowledge that these dinosaurs can and will rip you apart. Where Resident Evil made you cautiously inch around every corner, Dino Crisis forced you to react. The enemies were faster, and so were you. You had to be. Unlike zombies or supernatural monsters, you know dinosaurs existed. You know they ruled the earth. And the idea that they could once again tear through humanity is horrifying. This dynamic fundamentally shifted how I approach survival horror. Resident Evil taught us to conserve ammo, find save rooms, and survive the slow dread that crawled through every hallway. Parasite Eve added RPG elements and a different kind of combat system, one that was more about strategic planning than reflexes. And then there was Silent Hill, which draped itself in psychological horror and eerie atmospheres, making you feel like something was always watching, waiting in the fog. But Dino Crisis, it made you feel like the threat was immediate and always moving and always thinking. The dinosaurs weren't mindless monsters. They are apex predators, fast, relentless, and you can feel the desperation in each encounter. In Resident Evil, you'd hear the slow groan of a zombie before you saw it, giving you time to ready yourself. In Silent Hill, the static from your radio warned you of something unseen. In Dino Crisis, you hear the footsteps, the screech of a raptor, and then it's on you. There's no time to prepare, no eerie calm before the storm, just action. And somehow, that made the dinosaurs feel more terrifying than zombies ever could. One of the scariest things about Dino Crisis is how it uses sound. Or sometimes, how it doesn't. The lack of it. In the early moments when you first step into the main hallway of the facility, you're met with an eerie silence. No monsters, no action. Just Regina's footsteps echoing off the walls of the desolate facility. And in a way, that silence becomes deafening. It's a subtle, yet powerful way the game builds tension. You're expecting something to happen, but the quiet lingers, stretching out that feeling of unease. As you explore further, other sounds start to creep in. Outside, the howling wind hits you. You can hear waves crash against the rocks below, reminding you that you're on a remote, isolated island. That soundscape, combined with the silence when indoors, creates this deeply unsettling atmosphere, making the world of Dino Crisis feel abandoned and lonely. It's a different kind of fear than we're used to in games like Resident Evil, where the music and constant groans of zombies signal the next danger around the corner. In Dino Crisis, the quiet becomes the threat. You're left alone with your thoughts, waiting for something to go wrong. The camera work in Dino Crisis is another element that stands out. While games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill relied heavily on fixed angles to obscure threats and disorient players, Dino Crisis goes a step further. The camera isn't always static. It moves with you, zooming in when you're vulnerable or pulling away when danger is near. In those tight, narrow outdoor corridors, you can feel the camera pressing in on you, making every step feel claustrophobic. It's like the game itself is closing in on you, adding to the stress as you try to make it to the other side. And then there are moments when the camera will pull back just enough to let you know something's out there. You can't see it yet, but the distance makes you uneasy. It's an innovative way the game builds tension that feels different from the more straightforward camera technique of Resident Evil. Here, the sometimes dynamic camera keeps you on edge, never quite sure if you're about to be ambushed by a raptor or if you've narrowly escaped. It's been over 20 years since Dino Crisis first released, and while it's never quite reached the same legendary status as Resident Evil, it remains a beloved, if underappreciated gem in survival horror. Capcom recently released the game in their PlayStation Classics catalog for PS4 and PS5, but in typical Capcom fashion, it's only available to stream or download, not to purchase outright. There's no trophy support, and you'll need a premium PlayStation subscription to play it. For a game that was so innovative in its time, it's a little disappointing to see it treated like this, a relic in the digital vaults, stored away. But even with these setbacks, Dino Crisis still holds up. The tension, the pacing, the fear of something much faster and more dangerous than you, I think it's timeless. When Dino Crisis launched in 1999, it entered a landscape already shaped by titans of survival horror. Games like Resident Evil 1 and 2 had cemented the formula of resource management and strategic gameplay. Silent Hill had just introduced its own brand of psychological terror. Yet Dino Crisis carved out its niche by shifting the focus from slow dread to fast and unpredictable horror. It was still survival horror, but the rules had changed. Instead of waiting for the monsters to find you, you had to be ready to escape, adapt, and fight back in ways that you didn't expect. Shinji Mikami knew how to invoke fear. We know that already. But what he did with Dino Crisis was different. Dinosaurs aren't creatures born from the imagination. They're real. They once walked the earth, and that sometimes can make them a little bit more scary, I'd say, than zombies, monsters, or other supernatural forces. The horror in this game comes from the idea that these are predators. Faster, stronger, and smarter than you. Revisiting Dino Crisis after all these years has reminded me why it stuck with me, and obviously, with other fans of the game too. It's not just a dinosaur game, it's something deeper. And even after all this time, the game holds up. It's still tense, still frightening, and still unforgettable. Dino Crisis redefines survival horror by showing how something real, something ancient, could be just as terrifying as any monster. The fear wasn't about the unknown, but about something we've always known, and known to be deadly at that. Even after all these years, that fear holds up. As I replay it now, I'm reminded that some terrors don't need to be imagined. Sometimes, the past is terrifying enough.